Hey, 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 everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is Warrior Wisdom Wednesday. I'm so excited to be here. You know, this is my jam, y'all. This is my jam. This is what I do. All right. So, welcome to Warrior Wisdom Wednesday. My name is Ayana Henderson. I am an emotional wellness coach and I am the generational change agent. Amen, somebody. And so, what I do is I help Black women accelerate their emotional healing journey so they can live a life that they're proud of. And I'm able to do this in 6 months, what would take normally maybe about 2 years to do in traditional therapy. And so I'm just so excited to be here. I go live every single Wednesday and I impart whatever wisdom I'm learning onto you, lovely people. And so, for the last 3 months of the year, what I like to do is focus on, I call it the Power Series. And so it starts in October with the power of your voice, November, the power of your value, and we end the year with the power of your vision. Because it's my belief that you don't have to wait for some ball to drop to reinvent yourself or to change or heal or do better or have better relationships or make different decisions, that you can prepare yourself right now for your next season. You don't have to wait until, the new year. You don't have to quit on yourself. There's still a lot of time to make significant change. And so we are rounding out our Power of Your Voice series. And so we've talked about being a victim, your voice being a victim or victimized, right? We've talked about the power of the tongue, of life and death. We've talked about ways in which you've accepted negative narratives about, what people have said or spoken over you. And so, I wanted to end this on a high note. Of course, I'm going to do some education and some teaching, and it's always my goal not to be before you long, but just to really break down in snippets, right? And so today we're going to be talking about voice confidence, right? And the question that I'm asking is, do you trust your own voice? Do you actually trust your own voice? And so, if you've been following along in the series, you know that I've broken down in ways that your trust or your confidence in your own voice can be broken, right? So, I've shared one, it can be muted, right? And this is where you have learned to remain silent with other people because you believe they won't hear you or listen to you, and or there is little to no room in the conversation for your voice. So you've just learned to silence and mute yourself because there's never been any room for you to actually be vocal, right? Another way your voice has been, or your confidence in your voice may have been affected, is with your voice being masked. And this is when your voice is overpowered by the voice of another, such as being cut off when you're speaking, being shut down, or being told how you feel, think, or what you believe, or what your motives may be. That's when I say that they're putting their mask, right? They're covering and they're putting what they want right here. And then the last is manipulated, right? And so this, when your voice is manipulated, this is when a person takes or uses your voice, your words, your thoughts, and they twist them to meet their need or their narrative. So it may not be the truth, but they've heard it in such a way that it fits a narrative that they already believe. And so they twist and alter your words. And that is a form of manipulation when you twist or alter or change something to fit what it is that you desire. And so when these three things happen, what ends up happening is we start owning a negative narrative. So then you start to tell yourself a story based on your voice having been muted, masked, or manipulated, right? So when there's no room for you to speak up, you say nothing. And then you tell yourself, nobody wants to hear what I have to say. Nobody's interested in what I have to say. When your voice is masked, um, that's when you start telling yourself, I'm not enough, I'm not valuable, I don't add value. And then when your voice is manipulated, right, you're like, I don't even trust that people will hear or that I can articulate properly or that I will say the right things. And you start telling yourself this negative narrative that you then start believing. And then what happens? You do exactly what I just described. You start speaking death. So they say, in the Bible, it says the power of the tongue has life and death. It's not either or, it has both. And so you're liable, once you start owning a negative narrative that's been spoken over you, that you'll start speaking death over yourself. So what's the formula? Because the math has to math, right? I'm just saying the math has to math. So the formula is muted, masked, or manipulated, plus the negative narrative, plus speaking death equals a loss of confidence in your voice. That's how that shows up. And so then if you're like, well, what am I supposed to do to actually have confidence in my voice? That I can speak life, that I can speak truth, that I can share my story, that I can share my opinion and my input, and that, it'll be valuable, right? And so confidence in the power of your voice, it comes as a result of these three things. Sorry, should say these three things. Right. So one, I love to share about definitions. I love to make sure that right? It's in your knower. Confidence is the feeling or belief that one can rely on someone or something. And so in this case, we're saying we believe in our ability to use the power in our voice, right? So point one, how are we reclaiming back the confidence in our voice? How are we walking in voice confidence? One, a belief that your voice adds value and that you are value and are value abled. Now, I broke that word up that way because sometimes we don't believe that we can activate, or we believe in our own voice, or we believe in our own ability to say a thing. So I remember last year. No, 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 no. It was a while before that. I had asked God to help me learn how, like, to show me how to pray, because I don't know how to pray. And, I felt like there was some secret formula that you had to have in order to be able to do it, that there were all these things that you needed to say in order to be able to, pray correctly. Right. And so that had been, a request that I had made to God, please show me how to do X, Y, and Z. And so I'd say in the springtime, I was shadowing as a facilitator in my grief share group so that I could eventually become a facilitator, which I am now, a group leader. And he said to me, whenever I ask you to pray for somebody, whenever I ask you to go and comfort somebody, whenever they open up in prayer and whatever they close it in prayer, I want you to do it. And I'm like, you're around people that's been well versed in the Bible. They know chapters, they know scriptures. I don't really know. I'm still kind of learning all these things. And not really feeling very confident in my own voice and my own ability to be actually to go out and pray. And I wanted to, in my mind, I'm like, I want to pray to a place or in a space where they know it's you, God, that it's not just me trying to, be churchy or religious. I want them to know that you specifically sent me because you had something for them to say. And he was like, I got you. But first, you have to become confident. You have to believe that you are value abled, like you are able to offer value. You first have to believe that, right? And that I can add value in what, whomever is, whoever it is that I'm praying for, that I actually believe that this is going to help you. This is going to, offer some sort of support, some comfort, because we're talking about grief and we're talking about the loss specifically of loved ones, of wives, of husbands, of children, of parents, right? And so I want to make sure that I'm praying in this way that actually, and God was like, yeah, but you first have to believe that when I call you to go pray for somebody, when I call you to do the prayer, that I'm going to give you the words, but you first have to believe it. It's nothing like, I don't know how these analogies come to my mind, but it's nothing like believing that you can look at a recipe on a box of a cake mix and then it's going to turn out like Cake Boss. So you automatically like shut yourself down because you're like, I can't make anything that looks like Cake Boss. And it's like, yeah, but if you actually believe you can do it, you can learn the steps, right? Repetition. You just have to get out there and do it and hear your voice, hear you saying it. You have to actually bake the cake, mess up, bake the cake, mess up, bake the cake, mess up, until you start to perfect certain things. And so that starts with first just a belief, like just saying, when I pray, I believe it's going to help people. I feel like I can pray enough to offer you some sort of comfort. I just had to believe that at first. The second thing is Confidence is a state of feeling certain about the truth of something, right? Are we sharing and or are we speaking truth? Or have we partnered with the lie? So part of the reason why we don't always feel confident in our voice is because we don't fully believe the truth of what we're saying. Like it's not really in our spirit. You ever like you're in a conversation or you're talking to somebody and you know that you know that you know that you know what you're talking about, like you know it, right? And you can recite this frontwards and backwards, right? And so you know for sure that you absolutely are confident in what you're saying, right? And then you have times where you're like, I'm not really sure. Like, this is kind of my opinion. I don't really want people coming for me because I said a certain thing or because I feel a certain way, so you don't really fully say, you don't fully step into your voice because you're second guessing if somebody else knows something more than you or somebody else is going to articulate something better than you can. And so you start to sort of shrink your own voice, right? And so when you're operating in this place of really like really being confident in what you have to say, what you have to share to the world, right? It is believing that you are going to share truth, you are going to speak truth. I can only speak from my experience. Nobody can tell me that you don't know about what it's like to shrink your voice enough for you to speak on it. Nobody can tell me that because they don't know, right? They don't know. I was teased as like the teacher's pet and the goody two shoes and Miss Perfect and all these little things because I would raise my hand to try to get the correct answer or would have the correct answer or I would be willing to talk to the teacher. I was the one that wanted to stay after and help. I wanted to erase the board. I wanted because that's who I am, right? And when you're teased, right, when people tell you that who you are is wrong, what you do is wrong, what you say is wrong, or you're doing it to seek some sort of attention, or they label you because of how you use your voice, you then start to shrink. And you make a decision that you're just not going to speak your truth anymore. Because the last time you tried to be the authentic you, the last time I tried to be the nerd, the last time I tried to be, show that I understood the work that I was being taught, the last time I was just trying to be a good student, the last time I was just trying to XYZ, fill in the blank with your story. I decided that I wasn't going to share. And I tell the story about how God Kanye'd me, how I was in the middle of teaching something. And he was like, that's not who I told you to talk to. He said, I'm going to let you finish, but that's not who don't you offer a seat? Don't you do this? I specifically told you to talk to specific group of women. And I had shied away from it because I didn't feel Black enough. Like, that's my honest to God story. I went to school in a mostly suburban, not mostly, predominantly white neighborhood from kindergarten to high school. And so you're talking about a handful of Black kids that are being bussed out to these predominantly white communities, for a chance at a better education. But what it does is if you are not, woke, or if your parents aren't woke enough where they're teaching you, sort of Black history and really ingraining, culture into you, then you come out of that system feeling very confused and feeling very disjointed. I remember making a couple of phone calls and people had openly admitted, they said, I thought you were white when you called. I didn't know you were Black. And it just put this whole so I'm being told I sound white. I'm don't have a Black card because I don't sound Black enough, or I don't say things quite the Black way. And I'm like, so where am I supposed to fit in? Where am I supposed to use my voice? So you want me, God, to now talk to Black women. I don't feel Black enough. I don't feel like I have, the Black acceptance because I've gone to the predominantly white schools and now I'm struggling in the confidence in my voice. Help me make that make sense. And he's like, well, you just have to get out there and you have to be you. Your race has nothing to do with it. You're putting your race on it. I'm specifically telling you to go after a group of people because I know that you can reach them. It was about the motherhood journey. It was about the womanhood journey. But because there's a larger focus on other women who are not Black, that representation mattered. That was the only way race played a part. It's because representation mattered. It's because I happen to be Black. But the message, but the healing, but the truth of my story, but the truth of my journey is what was going to resonate with these Black women. It just so happened that I'm Black. And I had to stand on the truth of speaking it. Like, this is my truth. This is why I tell these stories. right? This is why I put this information out there, because this is the only way I'm going to continue to build confidence in what I have to say and what God has called me to say and who he's called me to pray for. What are the things that you want me to speak over people? What are the things you want me to speak over my life, my husband, my kids? All those different things, right? A state of feeling certain about the truth of something. I'm certain about my journey. I know the truth of it backwards and forwards. If I've repeated a story and you've heard me tell it multiple times and it hasn't really changed much, that's the truth. And I can stand on that. So I chose to stop partnering with the lie that says, a nerdy voice doesn't want to be heard, that nobody wants to be taught, that nobody wants to, all these negative narratives that I was telling myself as a result of being teased or not understood. And I decided to stop partnering with the lie altogether, right? And so here's point number 2. You can rest in the truth of your story and your identity in Christ. It's both. It's both and. Rest in the truth of your story. So recently I've had a couple of conversations with a couple of women, and they're speakers or they're coaches. And, they've come to and asked me questions about, formulating their talk or, just releasing some things. And I'm like, it's really what's holding you back is the one story that you don't want to tell. It's the one story that you're still carrying with a whole bunch of shame. It's the one story that you just don't want to release yet. You're still holding on to it. For me, that was my suicide attempt. For me, that was the molestation. For me, that was telling the story of how my husband and I were separated. These were the stories within me that brought some sort of shame, humiliation, embarrassment. I was fearful of judgment, critique, rejection, abandonment, shame. And those are the stories that I never wanted to tell. But when I stepped into my identity in Christ, when I started to believe who God said I was, which is why you kind of can see my shirt, but that's why I wear these shirts. When I solidified my identity in Christ and not in the world, when I made that separation, I could stand on the truth of my story. I could stand on the truth of my experiences. I could speak from a vulnerable place. I could speak from a transparent space. I could speak from these places because they were the truth. But the person who was backing me up was God. It was no other human being on this earth, because my identity was born in Christ. It was rooted in Christ. My value was there. I don't know if you can see it, but this is what I tend to tell people. No one can take your value because you were born with it. No one can take it. No one. They can't take your voice. They can't take your value. They can't take your identity. You were born with those things. They were formed in the womb. They can't take your purpose. They can't take your calling. They can't take your blessings. They have your name on it. He literally formed it with you in mind. Like he said, oh, I'm going to make Ayana. Oh, I'm going to make Sheila. Oh, I'm going to make Kinesia. Like he literally said, I'm going, and this is how I'm going to do it. So nobody else can take it. Nobody can take credit for it. Nobody can take it. Nobody can alter it except for you. And I believe it starts with your voice. It's the one, like your thoughts are silent words. It's still your voice. Even though it didn't come out of your mouth, your thoughts are silent words, silent beliefs, silent narratives. And if you're constantly partnering with lies, it's going to be hard for you to believe how God made you to be. I just want to be how God made me. Yeah, but you're partnering with the lies of the enemy that says everything that you aren't. That's why it's so hard now for you to reconcile the truth of who God says you are and what you're believing about yourself. That's why you toggle back and forth about, I don't know who I am. I don't know what I want to do. I don't know what my purpose is. It's because you're silently thinking these negative narratives. You're partnering with the enemy. You're partnering with lies. You're speaking death, but then out your mouth, you're trying to affirm, right? I speak all these affirmations. I have all these mantras. I do all these things. And so then you're having this tug of war. But when you reconcile the truth of your story, these things happen to me. I can't change the fact that I was molested when I was a little girl. I can't change the fact that I had a bad first marriage. I can't change the fact that mom guilt is like my ultimate trigger. I can't change Those are the things that I deal with. Those are the truth. But I can change how I react to them. I can change how they affect me. I can change now how I move differently as a result of reconciling the truth of my story. These things happen. They shaped me and my perspective a certain way. Now I'm choosing, because when they happened, I didn't have a choice on how they impacted me. But now I can choose how I heal. Like I posted, your trauma is not your fault, but your healing is your responsibility. Your trauma happened, and then you told yourself something, and it just happened. It was automatic. But now that you know that you've told yourself this narrative, guess what you can do? You can change it. You know, my coach, Dr. Dean, gives this example from a coach that gave her this example. You can't count 1, 2, 3 and ABC at the same time. You have to switch at some point. 1, 2, 3, switch A, B, C, D. You can't do both. And so with that same thought process, you can stop partnering with the lies and the narratives that you're telling yourself, these stories about I'm not enough, I'll never be loved, I'll never have X, Y, and Z, I'll never da 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 da, and the list goes on. You can switch that to the truth. This happened to me. I always like to use the Eminem story in 8 Mile, when he was going up against Papa Doc, and he had been exposed and humiliated the first time. He was going to quit. I'm not going to rap. I'm not going to X, Y, and Z. And then he decided to give it one more shot. And when he went up there, he exposed himself. Like, he exposed his truth. He rested in the truth of his story. Yeah, I live in a trailer park. Yeah, I have a trailer, a trailer park mom. Yeah, she does this. Yeah, I have a friend who shot himself. Yeah, I have all these things. Because now I know who I am. Now I can stand on the truth and the power of who I am. And when you stand on the truth and the power of who you are, you're free to say. You're free to say the things. You're free to say the things. Part of the things that impact your voice is the confidence issue, right? And so the third thing is confidence is also a feeling of self-assurance arising from one's appreciation of one's own abilities or quality. In other words, you can rest in the belief and truth of how you were designed and whom you were called to be. That's what that's saying. How does this relate to the power of your voice? How does this relate to having confidence in your voice, right? When you're resting in that, like rest, you know what I'm saying? Just think about resting itself, not taking a nap, just like you're at peace. You're at peace. You're not concerned with anybody else's opinion, assumptions. You're only worried about your ability and your quality of being able to do something, right? And you can assure yourself, you can affirm yourself in that truth. There's a common theme that I've been saying: truth, trust. When you look up the definition of confidence and the root word confide, that's what it means: truth and trust. Do you trust yourself enough in the truth of who you are? Are you truthful enough to trust yourself and who you were called to be? Can you live that out? What shame might you be dealing with? What embarrassment might you be dealing with? This is why I talk a lot about soul care and healing your emotional wounds, because a lot of the reason that you won't speak up is rooted in those emotional wounds. I had a client who experienced a sexual assault, and she didn't realize that in that moment, not only was she assaulted in a sexual manner, but her voice was also stripped in that moment, because she couldn't speak out. She couldn't stop it. She couldn't use her words to change the outcome. And she literally had to forgive herself in those moments, in that moment where she realized that was the moment I believed that my voice couldn't save me. That was the moment that I believed that my voice couldn't get me out of this situation and that I'll always be a hostage. And that is not the truth. That's not the truth. We had to reshape, we had to work to reshape that narrative. And when she said, my voice matters, my voice is valued, like I have you recite these things, she literally broke. She couldn't even believe she had to tell herself these words. You can rest in the belief in the truth of how you were designed It took me a long time to accept the fact that I'm a nerd. It took me a long time to accept the fact that I love to teach. It took me a long time to accept the fact that this is how I show up in the world. It's not for everybody. I'm not for everybody. I'm so okay with that. I'm not for everybody. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I'm not everybody's type. A lot of people probably won't learn from me. That's okay. God has designed you to capture those people. So I'm good with the sheep that he has for me because they already they already know my voice. So the moment that I start teaching to them, the moment that I start preaching to them, the moment that I start praying for them, the moment that I start coaching them, they're like, man, where have you been all my life? I'm like, child, I was trying to get my voice together. And I'm about to help you do the same. Because now I can rest in the truth and the belief of how I'm a nerd. I love it. I'm a person who loves to study. I study words. Like I have to do chapter studies. I'll do a person study. Like I'm studying Esther right now. I love it. I'll break it down and then I'll come back and teach it, hoping that it'll set somebody free because now they can see themselves in the way that I'm changing the narrative of how I show up in the world. And now you can too, right? So, I said I love the math. The math has to math. Here's the formula for voice confidence. Trust yourself, plus speak your truth, and appreciate your abilities and your qualities. My ability, hey Tiara, my ability to do a thing, my ability to come on here with these little slides like it's a whole PowerPoint presentation, the quality that I'm putting out. I'm not coming here with fluff. I'm not coming here with just, laughs and giggles. I'm really coming on here to teach for 20 to 30 minutes. Some biblical wisdom that I've learned that has unlocked me. That's what I'm coming on here to do. So the new formula, I said, you can switch the formula. The old formula was this. Our voice was muted. It was masked. It was manipulated. We were adding negative narratives. We were adding speaking death over ourselves, and therefore we lost confidence. But when you switch the formula and you trust yourself and who you were called to be and how you were designed, when you speak your truth, and then you can appreciate your ability to come on here and break this down, the quality, that starts to build the confidence within your own voice. That's how you start getting your voice back. Who am I? Am I okay with that? Can I trust me? Can I bet on me? As my friend Lakeisha talks about, can you bet on yourself? Are you willing to bet on yourself? Or do you feel like it's a big risk? It's a big gamble because you're not going to show up. You're not sure if you're going to show up. Do you trust yourself? Are you willing to share? Are you willing to speak the truth that you know? And not second guess it as, is this right? Is somebody going to have, maybe I shouldn't say it this way. Is it politically correct? How am I going to? People out here on Facebook thugs, people out here just reporting live. And they have no credential, no formal training, nothing. They out here just saying whatever they want. And then we sit here and second guess whether or not we should say the thing. I remember the first post I made when I decided I had to make a decision. God said, he asked me, he said, do you want to continue this way? Do you want to continue not speaking up? Or do you want to do what I've called you to do? Because you can't do both. You can't say you can't keep shrinking your voice. You can't not say the uncomfortable thing. You can't not ruffle some feathers. You have to do it. Like that's part of it. Jesus wasn't walking on this earth like tiptoeing around people's feelings and walking on eggshells. He said, I am the truth, I am the light, and I am the way, honey. That's it. That's it. He wasn't worried about nobody's ruffled feathers. This is what my father told me to say. This is what God told me to say. This is what I'm going to say. So I'm going to say the thing. And I was like, you're right, God. I can't ask you to continue to bless me and bless the ministry and bless speaking to women and send women to me. And I'm not willing to talk to them. Sometimes we want these things, we want these blessings, but we're not even willing to speak life over it. We're not even willing to nurture it. We're not even willing to do that. Not even willing to put in the work of just trusting ourselves, of speaking our truth, and really truly appreciating all those quirky things about us that make what we do work. It's all the things about you that you're like, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't. Nobody's gonna. It's like I had to get in my grief group and I had to tell them, I know we're here because we've lost someone. And I know that it is hard. I know that this is uncomfortable, but you are going to see me smile. You are going to see me laugh. You are going to see me tell jokes. I'm not going to let the negative consume me. I'm not going to do that. And I'm not going to not be me because of where you are. I'm not going to be offensive. I'm not going to be rude. I'm not going to be disrespectful, but I'm not going to continue to shrink me. I remember when I was learning how to facilitate and lead a group, I was pulled aside and I was told, don't coach so much. You got to let them go through their process. You have to be okay with the silence. You don't have to always, speak up because the silence is awkward. And I found the balance in that. But then I finally said, you know what? If God is calling me to minister to somebody, I'm going to be clear. I'm putting my coaching hat on because this needs to be said. I have to say these things. It's uncomfortable, but everybody's tiptoeing around the truth. So let me just tell you the truth. I know it's going to hurt. I know we're going to cry. I know we're going to have to go through some acceptance of what I'm saying, but I'm going to say the thing because there's freedom on the other side of that. There's truth on the other side of that you just can't deny. When I ask God to show me how to pray, to show me how to talk to people so that they know it is Him specifically, like I may not have any knowledge of what you're going through, but let you come through, God. He's done it every single time, every single time. And so that's the formula, y'all. Trust yourself, plus speak your truth and appreciate your abilities and qualities. And you start to feel more confident in the things that you did. I've been doing Warrior Wisdom Wednesday now for almost 2 years, just about 2 years. Never would I ever thought I would be going live. I would be teaching. I would be preaching. I would be talking about my faith walk. I would be sharing, some of the most vulnerable parts of me. Never, never. I was supposed to be well in my HR career, like somebody's chief human resources officer. Like I was supposed to be in the C-suite. Okay. You would have never, I would have never, we could have bet money on it. And I would have been like, you're kidding me. But I stepped into the truth of who I am and I had to trust it. And then I just had to accept this is how I'm going to show up in the world. And it's not for everybody. And that's okay. And some people have an opinion, and that's okay too. Because my identity is rooted in Christ. It's not rooted in what people think. And that's what gives me strength to keep showing up. If 15 people see it, if 32 people see it, if 500 people see it, if no one sees it, I'm still going to show up every single Wednesday. At some point, somebody may watch it. Hi, Kim. So I appreciate y'all for always tuning in. I appreciate y'all for always rocking with me, whether it's 30 seconds to 30 minutes. I appreciate it. So this was the last part of the 4-part series. They're all posted on my timeline. They're all posted on the Warrior Womanhood business page on Facebook. You can go back and watch all 4 parts. We talked about voice victimology. We talked about the negative narratives. We talked about, what was last week? Last week was, let me just run back here because I keep these notes up. Who's controlling your voice? Who really has control over your voice? We want to blame other people. That's not always the case. It's us. We have control over our voice. So, and then today we just talked about voice confidence and really stepping into the power of your voice. So next month, we're going to be kicking off the next part of the power series that I use to close out the year. And so for all of November, we're going to be talking about the power of your value. And we're going to be focusing on at the core of you. What do you value? What is it about you that makes you valuable, and how to really pull that out? We always ask the question, God, I don't know what I'm here to do. I don't know what my purpose is. And sometimes we're looking for this big grand thing. And what I discovered is that my purpose is that I teach. It doesn't matter on what or where. If my kids are asking me a question, I'm teaching. If I'm in human resources, I'm teaching. If I'm baking, I'm still teaching. It does not matter the platform. My purpose is to teach. God will tell me what to teach in that moment. When I'm in grief, I teach on, when I'm in my grief group, I teach on forgiveness. I teach on finding the grace in your grief. I teach on finding the goodness in your grief. I teach on being honest about your grief and signing your grief permission slip to grieve as you choose. I'm still teaching. That's the purpose. I teach. So y'all, listen, I could keep going and going and going and going. But I don't like to be, hold up your whole lunch hour. So I want to announce, though, while I have you here, that I am launching the Soul Care Success Series. So I've done a couple of just sort of surveys to see what people might be interested in. And this is actually going to be, we had such a good time with You Won't Break My Soul Masterclass. Like it was a 90-minute teaching that I did on soul care. And so we are launching a 4-part series. So every Wednesday evening, start in November, right? They are going to be Wednesday evenings, November 9th, November 16th, November 23rd, and November 30th. We are going to be hosting, and I'm bringing friends, y'all. So it's not just me. I got 4 phenomenal Black women who are going to come and pour into this master class. I promise you, they're talking about boundaries. They're talking about how to say no, how to get people to respect your no. We're talking about confidence, like just confidence in general, not just your voice, like your whole womanhood confidence, right? Harmony versus balance and finding the harmony of life. Like I'm so excited about it. And guess what? It's absolutely free, but you do have to register for it. And so here's the link right here. I'll go ahead and put that in the chat. Again, it's completely free. It's 4 Wednesdays in November. It's the last 4 Wednesdays. I won't be here on I won't be live on November 2nd. I'll still have a video though. Let me just put this in here. Well, Ayana, maybe you want to spell things right. I'm just saying. Maybe you want to spell things right. So it's there, right there. It is Soul Care, bit.ly/Soul Care Success. It is live up on my YouTube stream because I stream both to YouTube and to Facebook. I'll make sure that it is in the Facebook chat. Let me just put it here, right here. It is bit.ly/Soul Care Success. Let me just make sure it's coming up. I think I put an M. So let me get that. Let me get that to you right. bit.ly/. Autocorrect won't let you be great. Okay? They just won't let you be great. Come on, Apple. There we go. bit.ly/Soul Care Success. It is there. We're going to get that comment pinned up, but it's absolutely free. Listen, I thank you so much for always tuning in with me. I thank you so much for just continuing to support Warrior Womanhood. I thank you so much for all the times that you've signed up for master classes, all of those different things. I just can't thank you all enough for your continued support. In November, like I said, we're kicking off the power of your value. We're talking about extracting and pulling not only just what you see as value in yourself, but what also is valuable to you, right? We're talking about core values. And so it is just crucial and important that we know these things about ourselves. We talk about the new year, new me, and we don't even know who that is. I was 35, 36 years old when I realized what was important to me. Like had 4 kids on my second marriage, like no idea what was important to me. No idea the things that I valued. No idea what was important, what mattered to me, what my preferences were. So I want to help you be able to pull those out. So listen, this has been another edition, another session of Warrior Womanhood, Warrior Wisdom Wednesday. Thank you so much for tuning in. And I will see you all next week. I'll see you all next week where we kick off the power of our value. And don't forget to register for the Soul Care Success Series. I'll be putting a post up shortly so that you can have more information, and you'll see more posts coming out about the people who are going to be the women, the phenomenal women who are going to be joining us during this series. Super excited. Go ahead and make sure you register bit.ly/soul care success. Can't wait to see you inside the master classes starting next month, and also can't wait to tune back in next Wednesday for Warrior Wisdom Wednesday. Take care, y'all. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.